Hello folks, this is the new 5th generation Kia Sportage. Now Sportage is not only one of Kia's biggest selling cars in the UK, it's one of the UK's biggest selling cars. The last version of the Sportage won loads of awards and really made a bit of a name for itself if it didn't already have one. The new version comes with various powertrains, so I'm just going to walk you through those. There's an entry-level 1.6 TGDI petrol, 147 PS of power in that one. You can get that as a manual or an automatic transmission. That starts at around about 31 grand, just under the 31 grand on the road. And you've got this one, which is the 1.6 hybrid with 235 PS. Four-wheel drive and all-wheel drive options are available. Then you've got the plug-in hybrid, which is coming soon. So we'll talk about that another time. This one's in pure trim, which is sort of the entry-level trim. There are 3 trim levels available. You've got pure, GT line and GT line S, but they're all generously equipped. I've actually deliberately asked for the base level trim so I can see what you get for your £31,000 basically. This hybrid one, by the way, on road price on this one I've got here is £34,500. Of course, if you don't want to shell out £34,500, it may be a far wiser option to lease a brand new car. So check out the link to leasing.com that's in the video description and flashing up as a QR code on your screen. They are sponsors of today's video. Now I'll just whip through the stats of this 1.6 hybrid version for you. It has got the automatic gearbox, that's a 6-speed. You've got 235 PS of power, 265 Newton meters of torque, 7.9 second 0 to 62 time, 50.4 mpg on the WLTP scale, and 126 grams of CO2. The hybrid obviously does also get that all-wheel drive option that adds things like traction and terrain modes, but it is slightly slower and less efficient. So you're looking at 8.1 second 0 to 62 times, so hardly any different from the front-wheel drive version, but it's not as efficient. You're going to get 44 mpg WLTP as opposed to that 50 that we're looking at on this one. So the car certainly looks a little bit sharper than the outgoing model, I think it's fair to say, and because of the design changes they've made, which I think the front end is where they're most significant, it does now look unmistakably like a Kia. Like if you look at something like the EV3, you can see where this has taken a few design cues from that. Standard kit is really quite generous. Wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, parking sensors, you've got Kia Connect, got over-the-air updates, so it is feeling very well spec'd. If you go to GT Line S, which is the absolute top of the line, you're going to get things like a 360 surround view monitor, blind spot view monitor, 10-inch head-up display, Harman Kardon 8-speaker sound system, digital key 2.0, which is like a smartphone key, so you don't need a key, you just carry your phone around, and wireless phone charging. It's a shame you don't get wireless phone charging in this one. I know it's entry level, but I feel like that's a sort of bit of a must-have when you've got wireless Apple CarPlay. Otherwise, you end up getting into your car and plugging your phone in to keep it charged, which to me sort of defeats the object of having wireless CarPlay. Anyway, I digress. Safety and assistance features. We've got 5-star Euro NCAP, which is more or less obligatory now. That does mean the car's going to have a few bings and bongs when you get in, unless you turn them off. You've got, as standard, forward collision avoidance, lane keep, follow assist, blind spot avoidance, parking collision avoidance, intelligent speed limit assist, trailer stability assist. GT Line S adds safe exit warning, so that's basically going to look for cyclists or something in your blind spot before it allows you to open the door, which is not a bad thing to have. Of course, we get the 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty, as you're going to expect from Kia, and 12 months roadside assistance are included. Should also mention that all the automatic cars get smart cruise control with stop and go, highway driving assist and paddle shifters. There's a thing. When it comes to the boot space, it's really one of the best in its class. You've got nearly 590 litres in here. There's also a really nice underfloor storage area. It's quite a lot of polystyrene in there, and if you took that out, you could definitely get a hell of a lot more in here. You can drop the boot floor down. At the moment, it's in its highest position, which gives you a totally flat load level. and it's a big wide space, nice and tall as well, so you can get those really large items in there. Whack the back seats down and you could do all manner of harm in IKEA with this and get everything home yourself. We've also got a 12-volt socket down there and easy sort of quick release for those rear seats should you want to put them down. Nice job. So the rear cabin, folks, is very much like the previous Sportage. You've got loads of room. I mean, I've got that much headroom. I'm about 5'9" and a bit. I've got plenty of leg room and plenty of space to put my feet under the seat in front, which is not a given these days. The back of that seat is hard plastic, but you've got a nice big seat pocket there and a hanger there, which seems like an odd position for it, but I'm sure there's a good reason for it. On the side of the seat, you've got USB-Cs, which is brilliant. I love that in Kias. The fact that you can plug in your phone there and charge it up rather than having something sticking out here where someone's going to catch that with a foot and damage your USB socket quite likely. You've also got aircon controls down here. We do have quite a large transmission hump, so if you've got 5 adults in here, you are going to have their feet either side of said hump. And we've got a nice comfy central armrest. There's also a bit of a hanger on the back of the headrest up here. Material quality is nothing amazing, to be honest. It's not plush or anything, it's quite hard plastic, and the cloth on the seats just feels okay. It doesn't feel like anything particularly special, but I think for the price point of this car, it's competitive. You're perhaps not going to get some of the finishes that you might get in a new Challenger Chinese brand at this point, but if you compare it to a lot of the more traditional OEMs, this is more than competitive and very spacious. Okay, so front cabin, it's all very Kia and very familiar, if you're familiar with Kia, I guess. That's a terrible statement to start this off with. Down here, we've got a screen-based panel, which gives you shortcuts to all the main infotainment features. Press a button on it, and these turn into aircon controls. So it's quite nice because we do still have something sort of resembling physical aircon controls, but maybe we'd still prefer those to be permanent rather than having to press a button to bring them up, but I am being quite picky. I think that's actually quite a nice compromise. The steering wheel, however, still has physical controls, which is great. We've got all your sort of cruise control and driver information features over here. We've got sort of your media stuff over here. There is a custom button as well, which could be quite useful. Obviously, you might want to set that to bring up your driver assistance things so you can sort of more easily turn them off if they're not for you. And then you've got your voice command button there. We've also got the paddle shifters because this one has got the automatic gearbox, and then a couple of stalks. There you go, we've still got stalks. Well done, Kia. Nice driver information display. Nothing too fancy going on, but you've got all the information you need. If you go for that top level trim, you're also going to get the head-up display. We haven't got that on this one. Infotainment screen is big. It's great. It's packed with information. It's all there. Kia's own sat-nav system, infotainment system is all very good. I think it's one of the better ones available on the market. However, my default is still to go into Apple CarPlay. One thing I would say about that screen is the resolution's not the best. It could be a bit clearer. I've just come out of a couple of cars that have had very, very clear, very vivid screens. And this one does feel like a slight downgrade despite it being very large. Not an issue really, you'd soon get used to that, but it's just a bit jarring when you come out of something that's got sort of an OLED screen. In terms of materials and things, it's all nice enough. There's nothing particularly flash going on, there's nothing eminently luxurious happening in here, but thank God we don't have piano black apart from this one strip along here, which I'll forgive them for because it's not something you're going to be touching. And I don't think anyone's going to have any complaints with build quality or anything like that. It feels very well put together. The seats are really comfortable. They are cloth. It doesn't feel like the most exciting bit of cloth in the world, but it is very comfortable and quite nicely adjustable. Also got a decent lower lumbar support in this one, which is good for a fat old knacker like me. Shall we see how it drives?
Today's video is sponsored by leasing.com,
which is the leasing comparison site, and we don't just offer lease deals on cars, we offer them on vans and motorbikes too. Isn't that right, Jim?
It is. Leasing.com is the only comparison site that looks at the whole market. That means not just deals from brokers, but also from the funders directly, even from manufacturers directly, and from dealerships. That should mean there are more deals available, and hopefully you're able to get access to more vehicles and lower prices. So whether you're an old pro when it comes to car leasing, or perhaps you always PCP your cars normally, or perhaps you even pay cash, have a look in the link in the video description or scan this QR code and see if car leasing actually could save you a few quid. Thanks to Leasing.com for sponsoring today's video.
To the important bit then, how does it actually drive? How does it feel on the road? Well, if you're in any way used to the previous version of the Sportage, there'll be an incredible sense of deja vu when you get behind the wheel, because it feels very, very similar. It doesn't feel like much has changed here at all. And that's not a bad thing. That previous Sportage sold absolutely bucket loads. And there's a reason for that. And the reason is it does everything very, very well, like really well. You will notice, by the way, I've left all the bings and bongs on for your listening pleasure. You can obviously turn them off, but I like to leave them on so you get a sense of what the car's like to live with in the real world if you don't turn them off every time you get in. And all these driver assistance features are probably much more effective if you actually have them turned on, aren't they? So you can probably hear, but it's quite quiet in the cabin. There's a bit of wind noise coming off this pillar and the wing mirror, but otherwise the cabin's very well insulated. And it's only really when you kind of ask the car for a bit of immediate acceleration that you hear the engine kick in. And when the engine is kicking in, it does sound a little bit gruff. But for the most part, and certainly when you're driving around town, the car's generally very, very quiet. The handling's nice as well. You know, this is a reasonably sized family SUV, but you can still have a little bit of fun in this. It does handle, and that's surprising for such a high-sided car. It will corner fairly flat. It will cope with fairly industrial driving at times, surprisingly well. You know, that's something that not every family SUV in this segment can do. Very few of them, actually. The steering is light, but you still do feel it's direct. You know exactly where the wheels are pointing. You can get like a little bit of feedback from it. So again, something you wouldn't necessarily expect from a car in this class. And it's got a nice turn of pace to it as well. It doesn't feel lacking for power. I mean, the 0 to 62 time is not too bad, it's just under 8 seconds. But I mean, here I'm on the motorway, and it feels like I've got a decent amount of mid-range torque as well. The kind of mid-range torque that you would probably expect in a diesel, which is slightly odd, but very pleasant. This is the launch event for this car today, so I've only been driving it for about 40 minutes. But in those 40 minutes, I've done some fairly mixed driving. I was just on the motorway. I've done some sort of village type stuff. I'm now on sort of 50-mile-an-hour roads, and I'm averaging out 46 mpg, which I don't think is too bad at all, is it? You have to consider the WLTP figure on the car's 50, and you know, I'm averaging out 46.3 actually in the real world, and I think that's quite good. Obviously, I have only driven the car for a short period of time. This car, however, has only got 1,000 miles on it as well, so it's not even really run in yet. So you could expect that figure to possibly improve a bit as the drivetrain gets a few more miles under its belt. But I don't think that's too bad in terms of real world economy. If you were to obviously to go for the standard petrol, that real world economy is going to drop, and I probably would go for this one even when the plug-in hybrid comes out, unless it offers a really amazingly good all-electric range. I think this standard hybrid's probably not a bad shout, because it's given you a nice blend between a more direct driving experience, because you know that hybrid technology does help with the driving experience. It does push you along the road with a little bit more directness, shall we say, but it's also saving you on the fuel expense, and you don't have the extra expense of having the whole plug-in hybrid system built into the car. So it's probably quite a nice place to go. And to be fair, I'd be quite happy with this entry-level trim, personally. You may want to jump onto the Kia website and go through a full comparison so you can make sure you've got everything you need. But to me, it's got all the essentials and a little bit more. Folks, I've got a lot of time for a lot of this car's rivals, things like the Škoda Karoq, the Hyundai Tucson, which is also about to get a replacement, by the way. There are some really good cars in this segment, and really competition is particularly stiff because it's such a popular segment of the market. This sort of mid-size family SUV is a massive seller in the UK. If you just want a car that does everything well, look no further really. This does the job and then some. So the verdict then, folks, I think we've got something that's really well equipped, competitively priced if you stay at the entry level. I think if you go up to GT Line S, it then starts to look quite expensive. But I think if you go in for maybe entry or mid-level, I think the pricing is very good, and I think it competes well with what else is out there in the market. Putting this up against the Tucson, for example, I think this is going to be a little bit cheaper than the Tucson, and it's still offering you quite a lot of what the Tucson offers you. And I know they're coming from essentially the same company. Hyundai and Kia are very different companies, but they're built on the same platform. You know, Hyundai is the parent company, if you like. And that seems like the most natural rival for the car. Obviously, there are those Chinese challengers in the market now, but I think certainly if you're going for this one, the hybrid version, and not the plug-in, the standard hybrid version, they've probably got one up on the Chinese there, because we're looking at some fairly industrial petrol stuff from the Chinese at the moment, largely. There is a bit more competition from things like the BYD Seal U, etc. But I still think the Sportage puts together a really compelling package, and is one that you should certainly be considering if you want a big, practical, comfortable, well-equipped family car, because it really is a decent piece of kit. Folks, don't forget to check out leasing.com, links in the video description. Thanks ever so much for watching this video. If you like my brand of no-nonsense, honest car reviews, then please subscribe to the channel, please give this video a thumbs up, and please come back for more. I'll see you on the next one.
Huge thanks to all my channel members for your continued support. I really do appreciate it.